Welcome to Hear Our Story, the podcast where first-generation Palestinian voices take center stage. I'm Elias.
And I'm Janice Farhat.
Together, we're sitting down with family, friends, aunts, uncles, and yes, all your cousins too, so we can share the rich, complex stories of growing up between two worlds, the land that gave us life and the one that lives forever in our hearts.
They are not just our stories. They're stories that will feel familiar, maybe even like your own. So grab some coffee, get comfortable, and let's dive into these conversations that are as enlightening as they are entertaining.
Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Hear Our Story. As the intro noted, I'm Elias, one of the hosts of this podcast, and as the current president of the Ramallah American Club of Jacksonville, I'm very proud to be a part of this historic and engaging project. Janice and I hope that this will be the first of many interviews that everyone will enjoy and certainly relate to. Janice, without any further delay, would you introduce our very first guest?
Thank you, Alex, of course. Our first guest is a very familiar voice. She was raised in the Jacksonville Ramallah community and has advocated for our club her entire career. She has served on multiple committees, including many leadership positions, and most notably as the president of the Ramallah Club of Jacksonville for 3 consecutive years. In addition to working on the local level, she has given of her time to serve on many committees of the American Federation of Ramallah Palestine, including editor of the Batteh-Freiha Ramallah magazine. Earlier this month, on July 5th, she was inducted as president of the Federation. We welcome Ms. Joy Batteh-Freiha to the very first episode of Hear Our Story. Madam President, welcome and congratulations.
Thank you, Janice, and thank you, Alex. This is an honor. I'm honored, actually, to be president of the Federation, and your very first interview with Hear Our Story. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for this opportunity.
It is such a pleasure to have you. We want to start with the basics. Please tell us about your parents, their names, your family lineage.
Sure. My parents are Jamal and Miriam Batteh. My mother is, her Hamula is Hassasna. Her maiden name was Bejalia. And my father's Hamula or clan is Dar Ibrahim. So I feel like I've got the best of both Hamulas, 2 of the best. They were immigrants, came to this country in the late 1940s as teenagers, and married here in Jacksonville. They knew each other in Ramallah, but married here in Jacksonville a few years later, and became ingrained in the large community at that time, joining other family. My grandparents, my grandfather on both sides came back and forth from Ramallah to the U.S. They were peddlers at that time, which was a common profession for immigrants, and they would peddle textiles and other wares to as far south as or north as North Carolina and South Carolina, and then all throughout the South. And then they'd come back and go back to Ramallah, check on their families, bring the funds back there for them to live off of. And then so back and forth, both of my grandparents did that for many, many years until they brought their families permanently here to Jacksonville.
Yeah, beautiful, rich story, Joy.
Yes.
Very rich story. And I knew your parents very well. Wonderful, wonderful parents. God bless them.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit more about growing up in Jacksonville and specifically your first memory of the Ramallah Club.
Oh my gosh, I have wonderful memories growing up here in Jacksonville. My very first memory of being in a clubhouse was the very first building that our Ramallah Club bought back in the, I don't know, it was probably before I was born, but it was off of Atlantic Boulevard, and it was a house that we expanded. I remember we added on to that house, and we had there was a hall and several rooms, so it was a house, and I remember running around the from one room to another with all of my cousins, and then there was a room dedicated for a nursery, and my cousins and I would go into that room and pick which baby would be ours. So that was just a fond memory of growing up in the Ramallah Club. Of course, before that, we used to meet in a hall. It was the second floor off of Main Street. It was a floor above a liquor store, and that area, Springfield area, was a predominantly Arabic, Lebanese, Palestinian, Syrian community. A large community grew up in that area. And so before we bought our club on Atlantic Boulevard, we all used to go there just to socialize and meet up with other Arabs from around the city. So that is my connection with Arabs other than our own Palestinian community. So fond memories of that as well.
For sure. And as everyone knows, I mean, the Lebanese community predominantly came in the early 1900s, right after the Great Fire in 1901.
That's correct.
Yes.
Yes. So they've been here much longer than us.
Yes. And they really helped us, a lot of the Palestinian community, when we came.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes. And the Syrian community as well.
Yes.
Both of them were immigrated back in the early 1900s, so they were a little bit more rooted than we were, and kind of showed us the way in so many ways. And really, when the Syrian Lebanese community grew, they bought property off of Beach Boulevard and built what is today the Salam Club. And we used to, they would invite the Ramallah people to their meetings and their picnics and their events. So we used to, I of course have many memories of going to the Salam Club. They used to have a swimming pool, and we used to think we were in, hog heaven with a swimming pool. So it was a lot of fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Fascinating stories. Now, obviously, your parents and family put a great deal of emphasis on Ramallah and being Arab, and the importance of always remembering that. But how did you manage your Palestinian heritage and an American culture? And did you ever get caught or feel caught between the two cultures?
I really didn't know any other way of living as a first generation American, balancing my Palestinian heritage with my American heritage was just something. It was just a deeply personal journey for me. I felt like, I felt like I had the best of both worlds. I had, a rich cultural heritage, and then I have, I grew up in in America that had so many opportunities that my parents afforded me. It shaped my identity in many ways. It's a blending of both worlds, both cultures. I grew up around family, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, blessed to have grown up with three of my grandparents. My maternal grandmother passed away at a very young age in Ramallah, so my mother kind of, was bounced around from a grandmother to an aunt and back and forth. So it was a little difficult for her, but I feel immense pride and gratitude to have grown up with three of my grandparents who really kind of laid the foundation for our culture, our heritage, and really shaped who I am today, along with my parents.
For sure. I know you talk about how much of an influence they have been throughout your entire life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
What were the expectations in the house, Joy, when growing up with immigrant parents? Was it different or similar to your American friends? And I know that is a funny question, but a serious one too.
It is. The expectation was to always do my best. It went without saying, whether that was at work or at school. I was expected to succeed, and I think I did. I was a good student, I would say. I was studious. Expectation was to respect and honor the family. And so I think, my parents trusted me enough to let me experience some things, but I always knew where I stood, and I didn't abuse that. Respect, honor, and to succeed in anything that I did or attempted to do, whether at school or sports, work. I was expected to work in the family business, which, when you're a teenager, sometimes, you want to go to the beach, and I had to spend summers in the sandwich shop, which, now I think back and I think that really laid the foundation for my work ethic. And that structure helped, build my foundation for, responsibility. So, I think everything that I've gone through as a child, a first-generation American, really kind of led to another step in my journey. So it's a blending of both cultures. The expectation, I don't think was any different from any other immigrant family. I think, you're expected to be to succeed at anything that you do.
Now, your education and career are very impressive. How did your family influence your path?
Well, I'm first-generation American and first-generation to graduate from high school and college. Wow. So, in my immediate family, I have first cousins that graduated before me, because they're older, but and they were my aunt's children. So I was the first Batteh from my grandparents to graduate from high school and college, and so that was a big deal for me and for them. I kind of had to navigate that on my own. My parents, I feel fortunate that I had 12 years of private school, Catholic school education. I'm grateful for that. But once high school was done, I had the opportunity to go away to school, and we're talking the late 1970s, where it wasn't as common for young girls to go away to school. So I enrolled at Florida Junior College, which is now Florida State College at Jacksonville, and that was a complete culture shock for me. First of all, it was like I didn't know about classes, so my parents weren't very much help because they really had no idea what to do. So I leaned on my cousins who were older than me to kind of guide me through that. As far as my choosing my major, I grew up reading newspapers in my home. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, lived with us for many years, and when he didn't, we were always at his house, and he always had a newspaper in his hand. So I was always intrigued. I read the newspaper after he did. I could not read it before him. So I would always read the newspaper. So it was like I was so interested in the news and where did it come from, and why was this done this way? Why did they write it that way? So it was kind of a natural progression for me. I started to take writing classes at FSCJ, and my first 2 years there were general study, but then after that I decided that I can go into journalism, which UNF calls communication. So I went to 2 years at FSCJ, and then the upper level 2 years at the University of North Florida. And I have to say, everybody wants to go away for after high school, and I did too. But I think that it was a good move for me to stay here. The networks that I made, the contacts, the internships, the experiences working and meeting people here helped propel my career. I think I interned at the Times-Union, and right out of college, right after I graduated, they hired me full time. So I don't know if I could have done that if I were somewhere else. So I feel that UNF opened up a lot of doors for me. So I was grateful for the education that I received there.
That's amazing. How long were you at the Times-Union?
Well, I tell people I had 2 tours of duty at the Times-Union. My first tour of duty was right out of college for 10 years, and then I got married and moved away to South Florida for a year and a half. And then we came back to Jacksonville, and I did some healthcare communications for several years. I was managing editor of the Journal of the Florida Medical Association when they were located here in Jacksonville, and then they have since relocated to Tallahassee, but worked there for several years, then moved over to Methodist Medical Center, which is part of UF Health now. And then I did some other, what else did I do? Some writing for the American Association of Clinical Endocrinologists. And then I went back to the paper. So, and I was there for 12 years. So cumulatively 22 years at the newspaper. And I will tell everybody it was my dream job. I loved the newspaper. I loved the vibe, the adrenaline on, election night, being in the newsroom. There's nothing like that. And I loved learning the news before everybody else did. So it was just a natural fit for me. It was just my greatest joy. I still keep in touch with editors that guided me my first years there, and then I did some other things at the newspaper. I worked in the public affairs department for a while, and so I have longtime friends that I still keep in touch with from the newspaper.
Very good. And now you're at UNF, correct?
I am at UNF. I feel like I've gone full circle here. I'm very happy in this position. The vibe at a university, higher education, is exciting. The young minds and the faculty that are participating in cutting edge research, and the students that are just, so very much into learning and discovering. It's just very invigorating to be on a college campus. So loving it very much.
Joy, in the introduction, I spoke a great deal about your involvement in the local club and on the federation level, and how you always advocate for our community continuously.
Always. Yes.
In addition, you serve as the editor of the Batteh Ramallah magazine, and I want to remind everyone that these are all volunteer positions, all of them. Why do you do it?
Why not? I mean, I love it. I mean, I don't think I would do it if I didn't have a passion for it. We're all busy, but for me, it brings me great joy. There's the work is deeply meaningful to me, whether I'm volunteering or advocating on behalf of my local Ramallah club, or on a national basis advocating for the Federation or Palestinians in general. I feel very strongly that it's important to me because I feel like I'm educating others about the richness of our culture, of our heritage, of our ancestors. We have a very, very unique story to tell. First of all, our Ramallah lineage is like no other. And when I tell people I'm going to a family reunion and 1,300 people are going to be there, they are amazed. I mean, they just look at me like, are you kidding me? And you're related to everyone? I said, pretty much so, through the lineage of these 5 brothers that, their children married each other throughout the centuries. And this is not uncommon back then. We're talking the 1500s. So, and so we have our bloodline dates back to these 5 brothers, and it's just a wonderful story to tell. I feel like when I tell these stories about our culture, not just the 5 brothers, it fosters understanding.
Yes.
It fosters, it preserves our traditions, and for me, that's important that I keep telling the stories so the traditions and the customs and the language doesn't fade, because eventually the longer we're in this country and the more generations that we have, it's, eventually will assimilate into American society, there's nothing wrong with that, but I would like to hold on to it as much as possible.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And those 1,300 that you talk about, that's not even everybody.
And that's not everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very true.
What are some struggles you faced as a first-generation American, whether in school, looking different maybe, or your parents being different?
I don't know if I had any struggles other than, I kind of balanced both of them. There were times when, my parents wouldn't let me go to a sleepover at a friend's house, or, I remember not being able to date, somebody that asked me out. I don't know if those are major struggles. They're not, back then as a teenager, as a young middle schooler, that was probably a big deal. I'm sure it was for me. But I think the biggest struggle, I remember this incident so vividly. I remember it was a weekend, and then on Monday going to school, and one of my classmates telling me that she saw my mom and all my aunts walk into the woods to pick grape leaves. I mean, she didn't know what they were going in the woods for, and I was mortified, just mortified. So I said something, like, they were picking berries or something like that. But I think that was probably my biggest struggle. Other than that, listen, I think I handled most of it on my own. I made do, I didn't fake it till I made it, but I just did what I had to do and brushed a lot of that off. But yeah, that was one incident that really kind of...
I mean, we can laugh about that now.
We can laugh
back then,
now.
Oh yeah, for sure. But even, I don't mean to keep laughing about it, but I think we've all had those moments.
And all of our mothers have done this.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. What is your proudest moment, Joy? Tell us about your proudest moment. Or have you had your proudest moment? You've had many, but tell us.
I don't know. I feel proud to be who I am. I'm proud of my culture. I'm proud of my family. I'm proud of my parents. Immigrants who really, came here for a better life. They worked hard. My father opened up his own business at 17, to pick up and start over. That just is it's an endearing, proud moment for me to, hear the stories and hear my, they never asked for a handout. They never asked for government assistance. And, instilling that hard work ethic and that respect and honor for my family, that into me and my siblings. That is, I'm proud of the way I grew up. I mean, I have no regrets. I had a wonderful childhood. I have parents I'm proud of, grandparents, cousins. I just, I have many proud moments and hopefully many more to come. So,
Amen. Amen.
It's been a wonderful ride so far.
Yeah.
Very nice. Now, you've been fortunate enough to travel back to Ramallah. How did your parents describe it to you, and was it pretty accurate when you saw it for yourself, or had it changed?
Well, it had changed a lot since they were last there, but my sons and I traveled in 2014. It was the first convention that Ramallah hosted in Ramallah, and it was a deeply emotional trip for me. I think I cried everywhere we went. It was just, the people were so welcoming. There's still a handful of original Ramallah people. We founded Ramallah in the 1500s, and then, over the years, especially after the immigration, other refugees from other cities of Palestine came to Ramallah. It's a beautiful city. Beautiful city. It's heartbreaking that there's so much tension and violence going on. It was back then as well. In 2014, I remember Israeli troops coming into the city at night, and so everything was shut down. It's military occupied, so you expect that. But I found the city to be very welcoming and warm and beautiful, just like my parents and grandparents would tell us stories. Of climbing the olive trees and picking the olives and walking to Jerusalem. Back then you could walk to Jerusalem, which is, they used to do that a lot. It's a walking city, and, transportation was, you could take a bus. I remember my father telling us stories of how he and his grandfather and his brother would take a bus to Jerusalem every Sunday, and because my grandmother, my father's great uncle was the Latin Patriarch of the Vatican's Latin Patriarch to Jerusalem, and so my grandmother, his sister, would would send her husband, my great grandfather, and her two sons on a bus to give him a meal. She'd make him a meal, whatever it was, every Sunday. So they'd visit him in Jerusalem every Sunday. And so remembering that story and the path that they took was just very emotional to me. It was just and then I got to see my grandfather's house, which was still there. And my mother's birth home as well. So deeply emotional trip for me. And my kids absolutely loved it. I remember them saying, they were teenagers at the time, and they kept saying, "Mom, can we buy a condo here so we can come back every year?" So that was a proud moment too, because you never know how they were going to take a trip like that. But they will tell you even today that was one of the best trips they've ever had.
How wonderful.
Amazing.
Yeah. And the plan is for you to go back, of course.
Inshallah, next year, yes.
Inshallah.
I've never been at Easter, and I would love to go next year with the Federation. Every year the Federation does take a delegation, and I hope to do that next year. And, you just have to wait and see, but that's my plan.
Inshallah. Yeah.
Thank you, yes.
How do you think your experiences, Joy, differ from someone whose family has been in the United States for generations?
I feel like I have such a wealth of background. I speak a second language. I cook ethnic food. I have customs and culture and a culture and traditions that I practice, and I feel rooted to my ancestors. I think a lot of Americans who have been here for, centuries, well, not centuries, but decades, have lost that. And that's, eventual. It's going to happen. But I feel like I have a lot more in my arsenal, I guess, or just to have a more of a richness to my life because I have this background. I think a lot of Americans don't even know their ancestors, and America was built on immigrants. So I think a lot of them have lost their connection to their motherland, whether it's Ireland, Italy, Germany. They say, well, I don't know. I have maybe a fourth of Scotch in me, or a quarter of German. So I feel very, very fortunate. I think that I have, I'm American born, but I have 100% Palestinian blood in me. So makes me proud.
Now, to your point, you are a mother to two sons, as you mentioned, Nicholas and Christopher.
Yes, I am.
Do you find yourself repeating some of the same traditions and expectations upon them?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. I told you, it's very important for me to make sure that our customs and I'd love to see them carried on throughout the generations, but I'm being realistic, it's not going to happen, but so I want to hold on to them as much as possible. And I think passing that on to my children, laying that foundation. I know that I grew up speaking the language with my grandparents. My kids don't. They understand it, and I think they are intimidated to answer me back in Arabic. I think they did so when they were much younger, but I think they've lost that already. But I hope that they will continue our customs and our traditions, at least for a few more generations. And I hope they pass that on to their children. I have a cousin in Chicago who's brother married outside the culture, had 4 sons. The 4 sons are all married now. The oldest just had a baby, and he texted me and asked me something about a tradition. So this is, let's see, he's second generation American, because his father's first. So he's second, and his son now is third. And he wanted to carry on a certain tradition. I thought that was a beautiful gesture on his part. So you can lose it, but you always try to come back to it. So that made me smile a little bit.
Yeah. And with the previous question and your comments, do you have fears or concerns about certain things that may be lost as first generations become older and our elders, leaving us?
The storytelling, this is a wonderful, the stories. I wish that I had, taped my parents or my grandparents when, they were telling us stories of Ramallah. I don't want to ever forget those. And, I don't want to forget our customs and our traditions. I mean, we have beautiful traditions when somebody gets married, and sad traditions when somebody passes away. I mean, but there's a beauty in that, and I want to make sure that we carry on that tradition. There's so much richness to that. I just feel like let's try to pass it on as much as possible. And really, the Federation is doing a great job with that. Right now, during this week, is Camp Ramallah. And Camp Ramallah is one of the Federation's signature project. It is bringing young people ages 13, I think, to 17 for a 1-week immersion, cultural immersion camp. They're learning how to speak Arabic. They're learning how to pray the Our Father in Arabic. They're learning our traditions, our chants, and they're also hiking and canoeing and everything else. So I mean, they're like you're saying, like I said before, they're blending both cultures, and some of these kids are third generation. So we're doing our best as a federation to preserve the culture through these children. And they're all, I mean, we've got a record number of attendees this year, so it grows every year. So we're doing something right. And you see these kids at our conventions, and they're leading the chants, they're leading the debkas, they're leading the mil'ab, all of these ancient chants that I don't know the meaning behind some of them, but they're all goodwill chants that we've said for generations, and so it's beautiful to see that.
What is the best advice that you would give other first-generation Americans? I mean, between the three of us, we span a handful of years, but we are all first-generation Americans.
Yes. I would say embrace the dual identity with pride. I feel blessed to have a ethnic culture, a rich ethnicity culture that I can lean on. I don't feel like I have to choose between the two. I embrace both of them. I feel like stay rooted in your traditions. It's important. Just like embracing the dual identity, stay rooted to your traditions, and this is something I've been doing really my entire adult life, is educate others about it. Don't be shy to talk about your heritage and your family and where they came from and some of the stories that that you were told. So that's what I would that's my advice to others that are kind of like trying to choose. Don't choose. Embrace them both.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Teaching moments, as you call them.
I
Yes.
do. Yes.
Favorite memory, Joy? Favorite memory?
Oh my gosh. Favorite memory here at the club?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Favorite memory. I don't know. There's so many, Janice. There's so many that I did not prepare myself for. I don't know. I can't pinpoint one. I think proudest moment probably was being elected president. It was a very proud moment. My father was one of the charter members of our club,
Yes.
along with my grandfather. And my father was still alive when I was first elective, and I remember him saying, I'm proud of you. That was most heartwarming to me. I have a lot of respect for the visionaries who started our club and who started the federation. I think that's probably they have really it's part of my DNA. I said that before. Being part of my Palestinian culture and identity is my DNA.
Well said. Very well said. Could you possibly talk about your goals as president of the AFRP and also the scholarship locally, and maybe tie them together?
Sure. My goals for the Federation are to bring the Federation into more of a, I want the media to come to us if they want to talk about Palestine or Palestinians. I'm a firm believer if we don't be proactive and tell our own story, others will tell it for us, and nobody can tell our story better than us. So I want to highlight the visibility of the Federation. I think advocacy is very important to me. That's another goal. I want to increase our advocacy efforts. I would, currently we take a group of young adults to Washington, D.C. for meetings and for advocacy on the Hill, and with meetings with their members of Congress and in their respective states. We do that once a year. I think I want to do that twice during my presidency. So what's holding us back is funding. So funding comes from donations and membership. So another thing is what I want to do is increase membership. There's so much value to our federation. We do so much behind the scenes, and I know some people say, "Well, what does why should I join the federation? They don't do anything for me." We do a lot for you. We do a lot. Our programs are there for our to nurture our culture, to sustain it through the years, like Camp Ramallah, like Day of Advocacy, Day of Action. Our Government Affairs Committee is one of our most active committees that is on the pulse of everything that is coming out of the Hill in Washington, D.C. Our Ramallah Preservation Project preserves our historical documents and photographs. The Federation, without the Federation, I don't think, we help our clubs. And so without the Federation, we wouldn't be able to have major clubs in major cities throughout the United States. So that's those are my goals for the Federation. The scholarship here, you're talking about the local scholarship within our club. Is that correct?
Yes.
Again, being first generation to graduate from high school and college. Subsequently my brothers were graduated as well from high school and college, but being the first, since I was the oldest, education was, my parents didn't have that opportunity. They came to this country, they started working right away to support the family, help the family, but that didn't mean that they valued education less. My father had really aspirations to become a medical doctor. So he was very, very big, and he was a brilliant man. He was very smart, and education was very important to him. So he instilled in us that, it opens doors for you. So a good friend of our family, realized that many years ago and admired my father. My father had sight problems. He had an illness as a child, and that was one of the reasons that prevented him from furthering his education. But one of his dearest friends and long-time friends realized how my father just valued education so much and created a scholarship in his memory at our club. It's the Jamal John Batteh Memorial Scholarship, and very honored. These family friends are just incredible and endearing family to us. To create this scholarship in memory of my father and his feelings about education. So I am proud to, my siblings and I and my children are proud that this named scholarship in memory of my father documents his value of education. And so that's what we hope to each year present a willing and deserving student.
Thank you, Joy. It's under the Educational Fund that was formed after our convention in 2021, and thanks to the generous donation of John Khalil and his sons, Kevin and Michael, and to the very generous donation of Sam Nui. So your parents, your father's legacy, your family's legacy continues, and we want to thank you for being here today and for being a part of the inaugural podcast. We wish you the very best during your year as Federation President. We thank you so much for your tireless work for our community, our Ramallah community, and for all that you do.
This has been so much fun. Thank you. I'm honored to be your first interview, and I look forward to this and many more to come. Thank you for initiating this, Alex and Janice, and thank you for carrying on our traditions.
It's an honor. It's an absolute honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hear Our Story, a podcast dedicated to first-generation Palestinian Americans. Special thanks to the American Club of Jacksonville, and to the production team of Joy Batteh-Freiha, Alex Elias, Janice Farhat, and Chris Farmand. Hear Our Story can be found on all podcast platforms. We look forward to bringing you our next story.